And welcome back to Whiskey Politics. Dave Sussman here at Freedom Fest, and I'm delighted to be sitting with the political soulmates, the political power couple, Deneen and Tom Borelli.
Who's that?
Who's that? I don't know. It must be behind us.
You know Deneen from CRTV and Tom from Newsmax. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks to you. Thank
Great
you.
to have us.
First of all, one of the things that I really wanted to discuss with you both is we had Brandon Strakka on recently. The walk-away movement that's taking place online. It's just this viral movement that's taking over Facebook. And this is where you've got a lot of leftists and progressives and Democrats that are saying, I'm done. They're walking away from the Democratic Party. Before Brandon came out, we heard something from Kanye. And he stood up and he talked about thinking independently.
Right.
Brandon mentioned that he kind of backed away from that a little bit and has gone silent, so to speak, after he took a huge amount of incoming from the left. What do you say to him or those folks that are looking at this and saying, we really need this to continue this push, and where's Kanye coming from? And I don't know. For the movement to continue, are you concerned it's stalling out or?
No, I don't think it's going to stall out at all. I mean, my advice to folks is to hold the line, because people have been beaten with the hammer for many, many years if you think differently. Coming from my perspective, I get a lot of pushback, a lot of feedback simply because of my views, because I'm black, because I believe in conservative policies and principles. I'm supposed to vote Democrat because of my skin color, which is absolutely ridiculous. People need to look at the policies that are in place. Are you better off with smaller government, lower taxes, less regulations versus high taxes, which is what the Democrats promote? You talked about Kanye West, for example. He took a lot of flack because he came out and said people should think independently. So, he said he supports President Trump. We don't know if he's going to continue with that message, but for him to come out the way that he did, I think is a great thing.
Yep.
Yeah. And what are you seeing from the community? And I hate to say the black community and for you to speak for that just because of identity. But what are you seeing from the standpoint of, they say that the numbers have more or less doubled from roughly 11 to 22% for support for this president?
I think that was black males, I think.
Right.
Right. I mean, we had, I think it was Larry Elder on, and he was saying that you need about 90% of the black vote if you're a Democratic presidential candidate.
Right.
Anything less than that, you lose the election.
Correct.
Well, Hillary Clinton. Right? She didn't get the black voter turnout support like they assumed was going to happen. And that's with former President Obama, 2 terms. He had overwhelming black voter support. So the left is seeing how black voters are not turning out. And I'm sure there's a number of reasons why. But when you look at the policies that are in place under President Trump, black unemployment is at historically low levels. Manufacturing jobs are up. People are getting bonuses or higher wages because of the tax cuts and rollback in regulations. And that's not political. I mean, you look at what's happening in your life on a daily basis.
Right.
And companies they were announcing that we are doing this because of the policies that are in place. So if you're someone who's not political, you're not following politics, but you see that increase in your salary or you got that job and that company made that announcement, you're going to think twice about who you're supporting politically.
It seems the left is doubling down on this identity politics.
Definitely.
Tom, from your standpoint, how dangerous is identity politics in our culture and our society today?
Well, it's always dangerous because I think the most concerning aspect of all this is the intimidation we're seeing. The first question you mentioned, and Kanye and other people walk away or starting to think about maybe moving to a different party, thinking differently. And that's a tremendous threat to the Democrats. They need to keep those people you mentioned, the overwhelming Democrat black support for Democrats. They need that to win. If Democrats lose the black vote, they're gone. They're gone. The party is over. And that's why you're seeing this intimidation tactics, Kanye and other people. The game they play is whack-a-mole. The kids, you go into the arcade and a little mole comes up and you whack it. What they've learned over time is that if you can keep whack a black conservative when they come out, it sends a message, don't dare anybody else do it. But now it's changed. I think part of it is social media. I think it is freeing people to express themselves. When Kanye came out, it gave, I think, that boost from 11% black male support of President Trump to 22. And Deneen's gotten numerous responses on social media thanking her for taking her position and saying, because of you, I feel better about what I believe.
They're not afraid.
They're not afraid. And this is a tremendous threat to the left because they need that intimidation. They've had that identity politics for years that has worked. Sharpton, Jackson, go right down the line. That has worked, but that's starting to die out, and that's why they're so desperate.
Your book, Blacklash, came out, a few years ago now?
2012.
I imagine. You think of that, right?
Kidding.
Yeah.
Write another one. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
But my spare time, I'll write another one.
You took a tremendous amount of incoming. And this is right during Obama's re-election at 2012. So,
Sure.
excuse me. So have you seen a trajectory since in more support for what you're talking about since that point?
I have, and I credit that to social media as well, because Twitter and Facebook, people reach out to me on a regular basis and say thank you for what you're doing. I can now push back on my family or my coworkers because I believe a certain way, and I don't feel intimidated or I don't feel threatened because I don't care anymore. If you can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. From your perspectives, and obviously you're both right of center, what does the Democratic Party stand for today, besides identity politics?
Resist anything Trump. I mean, look at how none of the Democrats supported the tax cuts. So if you don't follow politics and you saw your representative did not support tax cuts, but wait a second, I got a $1,000 bonus that I never got before, what's up with that? So this is, things are happening that are making people think about who they're supporting.
So just fighting Trump. That's
anything
what it is.
And not only they're on the cliff of losing the black vote, they're losing the union worker vote as well. Look, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin voted for President Trump. Democrats used to be the party of the working class people. My father was a World War II veteran, a postal worker. He was a union guy, not a strong union guy, but he liked the idea of having a union protect him.
Is he a friend of Kasich's dad?
Well, I don't know, but at a time, but that was that generation coming from the Depression and World War II. But that's the Democrat Party today is not my father's Democrat Party.
Not.
If he was alive today, he would be shaking his head.
JFK would not be considered.
Exactly, JFK, right? Exactly.
Yeah. And that's classic liberalism, right?
Right.
So if we talk about individuality, if we talk individualism, I should say, responsibility for yourself, these are the values that most of our parents' generation were raised if they were in the Democratic Party. But you talk about the union vote. How destructive to the union vote and the Democrats was this recent Janus decision by the Supreme Court, where they disallowed the unions to mandate paying fees?
Yeah, it's funny. Democrats only like choice when it comes to abortion. When it comes to unions, people in unions giving money to the union, that you had to do that. That was a mandate.
Right.
So I think unions as well. The funding mechanism is also they're starting to lose. So again, when you start to put all these things together, the unions not being as powerful as they used to, blacks starting to question, the forgotten men and women rising up. And the Democrats were nowhere because the Democrat Party has gone more to the progressive left.
Which they're all running that direction.
And they're split with the woman who just beat
Cortez,
the incumbent, Cortez, in Queens.
Yeah.
Right. So
Right. Well, this is what I'm seeing. Socialism. We stand up for not offending MS-13. We stand for open borders. We stand for giving Peter Strzok a Purple Heart.
Oh my gosh!
And clapping.
And clapping.
So let's
how outrageous.
So let's talk about this, okay?
Yeah.
I think one of the most incredible things that we've seen in the past few years, whether you voted for Donald Trump or not, is the transparency now that we're seeing within this deep state. We see Peter Strzok at Congress yesterday, and he's getting up and he's saying these things, and the Democrats are supporting him.
Right.
Okay. How, from a voting standpoint, from a purely political standpoint, can Democrats, can they embrace that, or are many people going to stand back and say, as centrists, say, you know what, I really am uncomfortable with this?
Well, it's pretty outrageous what happened during the testimony yesterday. It was an absolute circus, first of all. The Democrats were playing, it was a tag team. Anytime the questions got, a little heated or tough, that really he should be answering anyway, but he was hiding behind lawyers' advice, and I don't remember doing that text and all kinds of, crazy comments. But the left were providing air cover for him. And one after another, they would just interrupt and interject, and they were shouting and yelling, and it was absolutely, and this was 10 hours worth of this, by the way.
Yeah.
But the Purple Heart comment, let me tell you, I was reading about that because I think we were walking the floors when it happened.
Right.
How outrageous is that, and how disgusting is that? Because the Purple Heart is for our servicemen and women who have lost a limb or who have gotten the Purple Heart posthumously after they were killed. How outrageous for Representative Cohen to make that comment, because this guy is sitting there who's supposed to be answering questions about his biased text messages to his boo, former lawyer, FBI lawyer Lisa Page.
Right.
And he was arrogant. He was flippant. The facial expressions he was making, I mean, it was just disgusting.
It is everything that I think, you mentioned the key word, really kind of the independents. Where did the independents view on this? Right. Conservative Republican, we always were concerned about the deep state. We hated overpowered bureaucracy. It's exactly why we want a smaller government. Peter Strakka is a walking billboard. But the way the Democrats just carried on, if you're an independent, you don't follow this, gee, this is bad. And let's not forget the deplorable slam. I could smell the Trump support. He was just reeking of that power and of that arrogance that really, really, I think, frightens people.
How much damage has that done to the Russian collusion narrative now?
Well, where's the evidence?
Yeah, I think just today, Rosenstein announced charges or Mueller, based on Mueller's investigation of Russian, I think they were Russian officials or Russian people in their army, whatever, for hacking. So, but no collusion with Trump.
Right.
Right.
So they were hacking. No word about hacking giving to Trump officials.
Yeah.
Campaign officials. so there is no, right.
But the damage that has been done when all of this started, right? The Trump campaign and colluding with Russia,
right.
that dominated the headlines, right? And now it's like we're not hearing any proof, any evidence, and this investigation is still going on.
Well, it depends upon which channel you're standing on.
Well, that
as
too.
Well.
That
because
too.
if you do go over to MSNBC and CNN, it's still all Russian collusion.
Yeah, we're still waiting.
And this entire Peter Strzok thing was a diversion.
This distraction. Yes,
right?
From the investigation.
And
right.
you heard some of the, if you watch the highlights, you see some of the Democratic senators and Congress people that are saying exactly just that.
Right.
And they're trying to go back to the children on the border. They didn't want to talk about that in 2014.
Right.
But,
at all.
At all.
Right. Especially when they had the supermajority. They could have done something then about immigration.
Indeed.
It's really concerning with the way the progressive left works with the media. They're really basically on the same page.
Yeah.
They could just basically flip the switch, click their finger, and they create a national issue. To your point about we didn't hear anything about the children being separated from the illegals crossing in 2014, whatever, right? We didn't hear about that. Why? It would have hurt Obama.
Right.
But now, hey, let's click our fingers and let's create a national news story about Republicans harming children. It's all emotion, but it's really concerning of the power the left has to, on an instantaneous moment, really create national news.
Okay. Trust in the media, all-time low, getting lower every day.
Right.
But let's look in towards the future here, because the media is changing. You're both part of a new media landscape.
So are you.
CRTV,
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And America's Voice Network, and what you're doing over at Newsmax. Okay. By expanding out the options for people, is what do you look at? I mean, it's really hard for anybody to predict here, but the media landscape in 5 years from now, the CNNs and the ABCs of the world, okay, does their viewership continue to diminish? Do we serve that purpose? Because we're talking about trust now. The danger with that, though, and it's the second part of my question for you, is how much of an echo chamber do we eventually all live in?
Yeah.
And how bad is that for our dialogue with each other on different sides of the political aisle? Any comments on that?
Yeah.
No, I think that is, it is a concern because people do self-select the media that they like. They want to reinforce their beliefs. We're fortunate enough, we don't have that luxury because when we go on TV, we have to try to figure out what the facts are. So we have to go to multiple media sources, too many, to try to figure out really what the issue is. But it does represent a danger where people just self-select. On the other hand, I wouldn't have it any other way. Deneen was on a media panel yesterday, and Rich Lowry from National Review made the really good comment, in the 60s you had three choices of a network.
Right.
They fed you what was the news was.
And you didn't question it.
Now, right.
Which
now,
was all the same news source, by the way.
Exactly.
It was the New York Times, just filtered through three different...
Very good, right.
Yep.
So now there's a competition. And, as believers in the free market, this is a really good thing. Yeah, there is a little bit of a danger, but at the same time, over time, the credible sources will move ahead, the ones that aren't will fall behind, and the market will really dictate.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you think trust increases because of the options, or is it just... the media is referred to as a big monolith, but there are so many now new sections of media.
Yeah.
And there's some that are standing out from others, but the landscape is changing. My question really is about journalism and trust. The panel that you sat on yesterday, there were some extremely important points made. We had Russ Douthat from the New York Times. Okay, Ross was telling us. He says, that he doesn't see the New York Times as a biased journalistic enterprise.
Because he works there.
Because he works there, and he believes the other side of the divide is that there's a lot of angry New York denizens that are saying you should hit Trump harder. But they're based in New York. That's their echo chamber. It happens to be a national publication, so we see it from a larger perspective. So does it go smaller and more selective? Does it only go to 500,000, a million viewers for CRTV or whatever it may be, and then we're all split? In other words, is the day of the large media conglomerate over?
It's possible, but it all comes down to the viewership or subscription, people willing to pay. But if they don't trust these outlets, the ratings, which I can't really recall, the polls based on people who just don't trust the news outlets anymore because of all of the fake news and the lies that are coming out. Those numbers are really high right now, even among Democrats. 53%.
53% of Democrats believe the news is either manufactured or twisted with a bias. I think overall the poll was something like 73, 74%. Right. So shockingly, over 90% of Republicans feel that way.
Right.
But think about that. If you're a brand, 3/4 of the country don't believe you or think you have a biased agenda. It's a defaulted product. If you were selling a consumer product, you'd recall that thing if 70% of the people don't like it or think it's flawed or tainted.
So what's the solution to this? Because we do need a fourth estate in this country. We need a media. We need somebody, to ask the tough questions.
Yeah. I think it's up to we, the people, first of all, to push back on these outlets. Social media, I think, is great for people pointing out when these lies and these fake news stories are out there. And these organizations need to police their own as well. So, and there's a number of dynamics that are involved here.
Yeah, and it's another interesting thing. Look at technology. You're doing TV right here now.
Right.
TV studios here now. 5 years ago, this wasn't happening.
Right.
You'd be on a microphone, maybe doing a radio show.
Right.
So this allows, I view this as competition. This is now kind of a Darwinian process where the new publications or the new media ventures who are successful will be the ones that will lead, and the ones who are not credited will fall behind. And I think overall that's a good thing because it allows individuals to get engaged. If it was basically 3 networks, you wouldn't have Deneen on TV at all. I can guarantee you. I wouldn't be on it all either. But now there's that kind of a choice, that kind of a market. And then with social media, people say, oh, I like Deneen Borelli. I'm going to follow her. Guess what? She gets on more media appearances. It's not by accident.
Yeah. What does it look like as we go heading towards 2018, 2020? As far as the election goes, are people going to move back further away from political reporting, or are they just going to go into their echo chamber corners? What does it look like?
I think it's a mixed bag. I do think more and more people are realizing what's going on. We mentioned the walk away movement, for example, which has gone viral. These are just everyday Americans who are tired of their Democrat Party representatives lying and creating false stories and attacking the president and his administration. So I think people will just continue to keep their eye on that. But the Democrats keep talking about this blue wave. We'll see about that. But because of this movements like Walk Away, I think there is hope in terms of people waking up and recognizing what's really going on.
Yeah. I know you're not prognosticators, but what do you see for the election for Congress 2018?
I think the Republicans hold the House. It'll be close, but I think they hold the House, which is really important. Otherwise, it's going to be impeach Trump is going to be a real thing.
Last 2 years.
But I think on the Senate side, just looking at the states where the Democrats are vulnerable, those deep red states, whether it be Missouri or North Dakota, Indiana, I think Republicans actually pick up 4 or 5 seats.
Do some of those Democrats vote for the Supreme Court nominee, Kavanaugh?
Yeah, that's a great question because they're thinking about their career, right? Versus just being disruptive and not supporting this nominee simply because it's under President Trump's watch.
Yeah, they're clever. So what they're going to say is, if the Murkowskis and the Collins are supporting, that means Republicans are going to get the 51. So then they'll join on.
Yeah,
it's a game.
They're going to be dancing, and that makes that vote easy. Well,
they're
he
going to
was
be
going to win
given
anyway.
Permission.
Right,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yep.
Right. Okay, well, I greatly appreciate you both taking the time. Where can people both find you?
CRTV.com, conservativereview.com, and you can check out my website, DeneenBorelli.com as well.
CRTV
And we're both on
is a great
Facebook.
channel. It's a subscription-based channel as well.
Correct. Yep.
And you got some other great people on there as well.
Sure.
Mark Levin and others.
Michelle Malkin,
Right.
Yeah, it's a great. And
Same, really.
Same, yeah.
Same CRTV and CR.com.
And you're both on Twitter and Facebook and very active in social media. It's definitely worth following both of your feeds. Thank you so much, Deneen.
Thank
Tom.
you.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And folks, you can find us at Whiskey Politics and follow me at David Sussman on Twitter and our Facebook. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and look for us on America's Voice News. Until next time, we'll see you soon at Whiskey Politics.